Okay friends, it's time to get started on our AC system. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is have your AC system refrigerant serviced by a professional. Generally it's going to be done with a machine that looks a little like this. The two ports that they're going to use to service the AC system, one is right here. The other one's located on the other side, all the way over here. Now once your refrigerant is safely recycled, the next thing we're going to do is make our way to the negative battery terminal. We'll use an 8mm to go ahead and loosen this. Once you have it loose enough, go ahead and remove that from the battery. Set that aside. Now the next thing I like to do is make my way right up here, and we're going to go ahead and remove this plastic plate. For that, you're going to find that you have three 7mm headed bolts. Go ahead and remove all three, and then the plastic protective plate. Now we're going to start removing this hose right here. We'll start by taking this off using a trim tool. Now to go ahead and get this out of here, you're going to find two clamps. There's one on the far end, closest to the throttle body. We'll use an 8mm or a flathead to loosen this only enough that we can remove it. Go ahead and follow that all the way down to the far end, close to your mass airflow sensor. There's one more clamp, 8mm or flathead. Now we can grab onto this, we're going to give it a little wiggle and carefully remove it from the throttle body. As I pulled it away, you'll notice that this plastic hose slid right out of here. That's fine. Let's go ahead and grab onto this, give it a twist. Once you have it off of there, just give it a close inspection. Make sure it's not worn, torn, or damaged in any way. The next thing I like to do is dislocate this fan shroud right here. For that, you're going to find a 10mm mounting bolt right here on the driver's side, and over on the passenger side, you'll find the exact same thing. Remove the pair. Now we can carefully grab onto the fan shroud. We'll carefully lift it up. Should want to break free. And then you can just go ahead and push this forward a little bit. Now once you have it forward, you can see that you have the fan directly against the front of the engine. In front of the fan, you have your radiator cooling fins. The reason why we took this off is because we're going to have to move the radiator, and it's going to go extremely close to the fan. So generally, I like to put something in between that's going to protect that radiator. You can slide a towel or a cloth or whatever you might happen to have in there. Now that we have that in there, let's continue on to the radiator mounting bolts. You're going to find two 10mm headed bolts, one on each side. Go ahead and remove the pair. Go ahead and grab onto that radiator, give it a little wiggle. Once you have it broken free, go ahead and lift it up and then start sliding it towards that fan. Once again, we're being very careful not to damage the radiator and the fins on the fan. Now that we have that separated, let's continue down along the side. You're going to be able to find where your two AC lines go into the AC condenser. There's one over on the driver's side, very close to the battery, and then there's one over on the passenger side. I'm going to continue on by separating these lines. Keep in mind there could still potentially be some sort of pressure in the lines. I'll use my 13mm 1/4" drive. Go ahead and put that on there. Now let's go ahead and grab that line, and we're going to give it a little wiggle to try to separate it. There we are. Go ahead and set that aside. If you have a hard time getting in here, you can also remove your upper air filter cover. Now I'm just going to gently pry the radiator away so I can access the mounting hardware for the AC condenser. You're going to find two 8mm headed bolts, one on either side. Remove the pair and their corresponding bracket. Now that we have those brackets out, let's continue on by carefully grabbing onto that condenser and sliding it up and out of here. While we're doing it, we're going to be extremely careful not to damage the fins on the forward aspect of the radiator. Now, if either of your air baffles fell off along this area here, just go ahead and put them back on. Looking along one area, you're going to find that it has a slot that can fit right over this. I'll slide it in position, press it on. Now with our original condenser on the floor, we're going to continue by removing our air baffles. To do that, I'll just carefully use my trim tool. I'm going to get in between the air baffle and the condenser and gently pry up each of my push tabs. Once I have it off of there, I'll continue by transferring it over to the brand new one. Now let's go ahead and line it up with the new one. Now I'm not going to go in the first hole there. I'll come down to this second one. Go ahead and line that up, gently press it down and in. Should want to line up going down the line. Make sure it's completely pressed in and secured, and then do the exact same thing for the other side. In your kit, you're going to notice it came with 2 new studs. Let's go ahead and take one of those studs. We'll slide it into this port here, put it in by hand, and then go ahead and snug it using a 5mm socket. It's bottomed out right there. I'll just take it a little bit further here. Go ahead and give that a wiggle, make sure it's secure. Do the same for the other. Okay, bottomed out. Now what we're going to do is for the condenser, we're going to add 1 ounce of PAG oil. So I'll just go ahead and put this right into my cup here, my measuring cup that is. Bring it up to the 1 ounce line. We're going to go ahead and add this PAG oil directly into the inlet port. If you're confused on which one is the inlet, it's going to be the side that goes for the driver's side of the vehicle, the one that's closest to the compressor. So just go ahead and orientate it into the vehicle and then figure out which side it is. Let's go ahead and put this directly into the hole. Now let's carefully place this back into the vehicle. As we bring it down, be extremely careful not to damage the fins on your brand new condenser or on your radiator. It's super important to pay attention to all that. We'll just start sliding this down in here. As we slide this down, let's make sure that the little pitons on the bottom line up with their corresponding holes. That slides right in. Give it a little wiggle. Now that we have that in there, let's continue on with our mounting brackets. As you put on these brackets, you want to have them facing in this direction. Looking at it, you can see exactly where the original bolt was. So we'll just go ahead and put this into position on top of the radiator. Now we'll put this in position on top of the condenser. Now we can take the condenser and we'll just slide it forward so we can line up our mounting bolt hole. Start in each of your mounting bolts before you go ahead and tighten either of them. Let's continue on to each of our AC lines. On each of the lines, you're going to find that you have a rubber O-ring. It's a good idea to go ahead and replace these. Let's go ahead and pop this right off. Now I'm just going to take some of my PAG oil. I'm going to put it on the O-ring, essentially lubricating it. There we are. Go ahead and work that around. Let's slide this on the AC line. Make sure it's well lubricated. Let's slide this on here. Put that mounting nut on there. Now we'll just gently bottom this out and then we're going to torque it to 71 inch-pounds. Now let's move along and do the same to the other line. There we are. The next thing we have to do is get the radiator situated. Looking down along the side of the radiator, you're going to find where there's mounts. We'll go ahead and lift the radiator up, put both sides into their corresponding mounts, and then start in both of the mounting bolts. Now we'll bottom each of these out and then torque them to 89 inch-pounds. Now we can slide this out of here. Now with that out of there, let's take the fan shroud, slide it up against the radiator along the top and along the bottom on both sides. Once you feel as though you have it in place, go ahead and slide it down. Go ahead and give the bottom side a little wiggle. Essentially, I want to make sure that it is latched in. Once you're sure that it's completely bottomed out, continue on with your 2 mounting bolts. Snug them up. Make sure that's tight. Now let's reinstall our air inlet tube. I'll take this and slide it right onto the throttle body. Now I'll take the other end and I'll put it onto the air inlet box here. Take our plastic tube, slide that right in there. Go ahead and grab that wiring, put it in position. Snug both of your clamps. You want to make sure they're each tight so no dirty or unmetered air makes its way into the intake. Reinstall your plastic cover. Let's reconnect our negative battery terminal. Slide that down as far as you can. Use your 8mm, tighten it accordingly. All right, so at this point, we have the AC system put back together. You're going to want to make your way over to a professional AC shop so they can go ahead and recharge this for you. When they do it, they're going to put in the proper amount of oil, and of course, they're going to put in the proper amount of R134A refrigerant. At that point, you can continue on by taking it for a road test and making sure that it blows nice and cold. Thanks for watching.